right now, as we're starting to think, and if this is really how you kind of want to organize your work, board members and superintendent, you all need to be thinking, who are the key players that need to be on these different teams to help us with this work? If it's not your area of expertise, who can you get here to be the expert for you, if that makes sense? And that is a thinking piece that we'll get to, but it's important that you start thinking now. In terms of your fiscal soundness, is there somebody in your community you know that can come in and help you examine things, look to the future, make projections? There are universities that can do that with you. There are colleges, there are consultants that can do that, but do you need that or do you have the expertise in-house? Developing an effective communication plan, lots of webbing off of how we communicate, what gets said and done in different areas. Do you have the expertise in-house or do you need to find somebody that can help you navigate that path? Those are the questions that as a board you should be asking yourselves. So, what I've done also at the end of this, you'll see 5 extra pages. And what we did was, what would be required in each of these areas. So I did a page for each one of these, just some guiding questions. Again, I'm one of those, I'm not a template person, but I also don't like to reinvent the wheel. So if somebody has something, I'm totally into ripping it off and making it my own. So what I did was organize this for you around those 5 areas. So the guiding questions are who needs to know, who do we need on our team, you know, those kinds of questions. What do we expect, and what's recommended? Like I did curriculum and instruction just as a, for instance. So what is required in curriculum instruction? Well, 90 days after the public release of K-Prep data, you have to file a CDIP and a CSIP. CDIP at the district level, CSIP at the school level. Now, 2 years ago, remember when the date kept getting moved back on us on test scores, and it's like, well, we think it's going to be January. Well, it might be February when the CDIPs were due. This year, we knew when they were due, in December, and that is the cycle that we want to do. And those of you that are old like me, I've been in education 27 years now. When we used to write our plans, they were August to May, but now they're December to December. Because I'll be frank with you, I'm Debbie, but I'll be frank with you. If you live and work in a high school, it's a 12-month a year job now. You can assess students all summer. High school work is 12 months. So these CSIPs and CDIPs have to go 12-month cycles, so they've moved it to December to indicate that. There's no stopping point. You just got to keep rolling. So what is expected also? Your work has to be aimed at continuous improvement based on data, and then you can expand that. What's recommended? A recurring system of work involving data review, revision, publication, training, PLC work. Do you see where that goes? So each of these has an implication for you, and I just included them as a guide for you. Communication is more like, what is required for a communication plan? What is it our community expects from us? What do we recommend we try to get started? I did one for each area, just so you can see where they go. As you work through these 5 areas, once we get our vision down and our mission down, that's the important part of the strategic plan. If you know that you've got this goal, then how do we get there through these 5 areas? And I think that's where we'll be shortly with this group. I mean, you're obviously a gifted county, so it'll be short in getting there. But I do urge you to develop a 30, 60, 90-day plan together. Beginning with our mission and vision work, add your strategic planning team membership, review your CDIP and align your goals that you have now, and knowing that you can make revisions at any time to that. And then develop your 3, 5, and 10-year plan. I've got some resources here in this PowerPoint that I'll leave with you if any of you are interested in this. These 2 are fantastic strategic planning handbooks. They're great. And I'll leave this with you so you don't have to take notes or anything. This is great too. It's a workbook for strategic planning for nonprofits. But I live in this world. These 2 are great. Absolutely great if you need them. But I do want you to remember, this is a process, not an event. Tonight was an event. The work is a process. It's going to take us a little time to get where we need to go. Do you have any questions for me? So Laura, in your head, what's your timeline? I know March 1st is not going to work, so move on, little doggy. What are you thinking?
For our next event?
Yes, in the process. Think in increments increments maybe of 2 weeks. So in 2 weeks, what do you want to have accomplished?
Well, in
2 weeks more.
In 2 weeks, we'll have another board meeting. So at that board meeting.
See, I knew that, that's why I said 2 weeks.
So we would obviously, during my superintendent's report, I want to be able to tell the board members that we had a draft version of who would actually come to the summit, the next event, next large event. And then I would want to hear from the board members when we are ready to actually have the event where everyone sits down at the table.
Mhm.
And I would think April,
As a summit date?
because you're gonna have to get that on folks' calendars. It's gonna be a lot of invitations, and I believe that it's very important to communicate and be proactive.
Mhm.
And then in between times, there would be meetings before the meetings.
Right.
What's this gonna look like, the logistics, what do we wanna accomplish? Because we as a leadership team need to do as you said, which is go out to the community and ask people, we need your help.
So, starting from today, within the next 30 days, we're definitely going to get this done, and we'll be meeting about, we'll be meeting about this. This is at your 60-day mark. You're going to have your stakeholders, right?
Yes.
The summit.
At the summit. And so between 60 and 90 days is the development of the ideas that come out of that summit. Is that correct?
Yes.
So by the end of the school year, your hope is to have your mission, your vision, and your timeline for strategic planning. Because once you have your mission and vision, that's the work of the board then to do your strategic planning piece. On here's where we want to go, how are we going to get there? What do we need to do fiscally, what do we need to do facilities, personnel, and you can then plot out your 3, 5, and 10-year plans. Does that make sense?
What I'm excited about is that one, we're doing the work, but two, facilities planning starts next year.
Right.
So
It
it's
lays
our
the
year
groundwork,
to
it's
develop
really the
that.
right time for all of that. If you spend this and by June 1st you've got this finished, and a rough draft, you already will know, I know you all, I know this county, you already know where you want to head. So we can have the rough drafts of that by summer. And then when you start your planning process, it'll coincide beautifully because the release of new test data will be right in the fall after we get back. And then you've got your CDIP that is in December, so you've got your cycle started for that. Does that make sense?
So would we have just one summit then?
I think that's going to depend on how you all want to do that. I think it can be accomplished in one if you take, here's the work we've done and we'd like you to help us with this as we get to the next piece. Out of that summit, you could end up with some strategic planning pieces that come out of that too. That this is what we value, this is where we want to go, so we can kind of parking lot those things and have them as a sidecar kind of conversation. The main conversation is, are we setting the right course? Do we have community involvement? Do we have engagement?
Because we want them to be committed to the mission, vision, and beliefs.
Well, so let me ask a question. Do you want to do we can change it any way you want. Do you want to do a similar activity that you did this evening with your community to engage them in the process? What do you want to do to get their activity piece here?
I think that would be okay.
We'll have to craft it differently because we're educators. So we know all the little buzzwords that we want to use.
But what I'm thinking is that the stakeholders we're bringing in outside, I mean, the first time around, I mean, they're going to be probably like a deer caught in headlights.
Yeah.
So I'm thinking maybe the first time, maybe what we're doing here is just kind of get them warmed up to the idea of what we're doing. So I'm thinking maybe.
But I want you, it's very hard, I mean, it's very hard to get people to come to the table. So,
You'd be surprised at how much input they'll have.
immediately,
We done it all in one day before.
Yeah.
I mean, and, you know.
We did kind of a Friday night thing and then a Saturday thing is when we finished it up. So we did a Friday night piece and then a Saturday piece. But it could be done we could do it all at once. But I do like the fact that you got to get them warmed up, but I think part of it is, here's what we met and talked about. And this is what we have. Now, we're gonna lead you through a couple of activities, and we can tweak these activities to make them more community friendly. You know, we'll fix them so they are. And then I will do what I did before, which is what I just did. I didn't do this the other day, Marion, or Madison County, when I was working with them, but I literally jumped on the computer. You were there, weren't you? Were you there the last time I did this in the district with Mr. Markham? So I literally jumped on the computer and typed up as we were going, and we revised on the fly. I mean, like marked it out, added, organized on the fly. And we finished with a really solid piece of work, and I think we can do that again, but we have to make it accessible to the community. That's the piece that we have to make sure that we can do that, so.
But I like April better than I do June as far as the community.
Oh, yeah. Having this in April gives you then 2 months to finish up and get it into a form that you want to be able to communicate.
And then from that, what should grow out is, as we do the strategic planning, from that large group, there will be members on the large group that will work in individual pieces that will help us. You know, and what you would hope is that this would be a group of people that would periodically come back together to talk about the progress that we've made.
More as an ad hoc committee of the board that you're pulling folks together to help you engage the community in ways maybe they haven't been engaged before. I think that's a great idea.
And for the community to buy in, I don't want to use the word buy in, for the community to actually have ownership in what we're doing, they have to see that we're actually doing what we say. They've got to see the results.
And they need to see their voice in your
Yes,
work.
in the work that's actually happening, and if it's not, then we have to be willing to say, this isn't working, what can we do?
Right, right.
Because we have to understand that during the cycle.
Absolutely.
There'll be some revisions.
So we're looking at a community meeting in April. So your job in the next 30 days then is to get the group together, figure out invitations, tell your board who you all have thought through. You guys, there's that visioning hand piece in there that says, who is it we need to include? So all of you will have a say in who you think needs to be at that meeting, and you need to make sure that you can get them there. Have your meeting, and then out of that will grow this beautiful body that you've got in your mission and vision work, and you've got your dream, believe, achieve, and I think we can set a framework up for that. And then that will launch into your strategic planning piece. Does that make sense? Are you all good with that?
Yes.
Mr. Mullins, Chairman of the board, what do you think?
Just my head's full.
Mine too.
Sounds good. Sounds good.
I think things are happening in a good way, and you're gonna speak at the leadership meeting in March, right?
At Chamber of Commerce,
Oh,
I'm
great.
actually the guest
So,
speaker for the luncheon. So that's a segue, and there'll be a lot of key players
Okay.
at that, and so that'll,
Perfect.
and I'm excited that we've completed this work so that when I'm actually speaking, you know,
Right.
it'll just lend itself.
Okay. Well, what I'll do is take the information that I typed up for you, and I'll take the value statement, or at least maybe type it up for myself and leave it here, leave that sheet here for you. Then I will do a little wordsmithing and send things back and play with the organization a little bit to see if we can get it in a framework around dream, believe, achieve that works, makes sense to everybody, embodies everybody's input so that we can see where that's going. And then when you can present that to a group, like I said, it's easier to start with something than to reinvent the wheel. So we can start with something, say, here's where we're headed, and we need your help refining this, or we need your help bringing it to life. And that's the engagement piece. So I think we can definitely do that. And I'm happy to help you guys, you know that. It's not a problem at all. Anything else? Mr. Chairman? Are you ready to call it an evening?
It's not up to me, it's up to Delaney.
Okay, sorry. Are we ready to call it an evening?
I move we adjourn.
All right.
Second.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? This meeting's adjourned.
Debbie?
7:44.
Start at